First of all, thank you very much for the invitation. I'm so happy to see so many friends, so many old colleagues and comrades in arms for many years. What should I say? I think we maybe were too quick, and I'm part of the. I also bear part of the blame. We were too quick to give Samia the benefit of the doubt. We should never have given her the benefit of the doubt because we knew that she was a product of CCM. She had served as vice president to John Pombe Magufuli, and she partook of all those 6 terrible years of terror. So when she became president in March of 2021, she was coming into the office with all that baggage, and she did not deserve any benefit of the doubt from any one of us, and especially from the people that her regime had tormented for so long, the people of Tanzania, as well as from the international community. Samia came in as president. She took over the government and the machinery of repression that was made in the name and image of John Pombe Magufuli. She didn't change much. She came up with some, she came in with very nice promises, but I think she was always very clear. She made it very clear from the very beginning that serious reform was not on her agenda. She said it at the earliest, that constitutional reform, and you cannot talk of reform in Tanzania without talking of constitutional reform. She said clearly that constitutional reform was not part of her agenda. She made some promises, yes, but the promise of serious democratic reform, we should not give her credit for something that she didn't really make so much of. She didn't make serious promises of reform. But the most important thing is she inherited the machinery of that repressive state that was created, that tormented us so much during the Magufuli presidency. So that's one thing. The other thing that I think we also tend to miss is in her 3 years in office, Samia did not only reject constitutional and institutional reform. In fact, she introduced developments in the opposite direction. Today, everyone is talking about abductions and kidnappings and disappearances and all that, and the murders that go with it. The question is, who is doing these kidnappings and disappearances and murders and so on? The quick answer is the police force. And I believe that the police are heavily involved in this. But we forget that last year, only last year, in August, September of last year, Samia brought in amendments to the law establishing the Intelligence and Security Service, which for the first time gave the Tanzania Intelligence and Security Service police powers. Before last year, the intelligence and security operatives were not allowed to arrest anyone. They could do whatever surveillance they were allowed to under the law, but they could not arrest. They did not have police powers. Samia Suluhu Hassan and her government gave the apparatchiks, the operatives of the security and intelligence service powers to arrest and detain individuals. Now the question is, We all know when you are arrested by the police, you are taken to a police station. And there's a whole range of things that the police are required to do by law to make sure that you don't just disappear. You have to be recorded. You have to be processed. You have to be given police bail. You have to be taken to court. What happens when you are arrested by officials from the intelligence and security service? Where do they take you to? Which police station are they? Or a TIS station, because police station are manned by police officers. Where do TIS officers take you when they arrest you, as they are now empowered to do? We are surprised that people are disappearing. We are not asking ourselves, well, the has allowed an institution, an agency, a security agency, which does not have the infrastructure to deal with accused persons the way the police force does. We tend to forget that the intelligence and security service operates in the darkness. And these are the people, I think, who are primarily responsible for this wave of abductions and disappearances and killings that we have witnessed. There is another thing. In the same amendment to the law establishing the Intelligence and Security Service, before the minister responsible for security and intelligence was the supervisor, the operational supervisor of the activities of the Intelligence and Security Service. That is no longer the case after the last year's amendments. As of those amendments, the security and intelligence apparatus now comes directly under the president. So the operational control of TIS is now in the hands of the president. So whatever happens, whatever they do now, they do it because they are operationally, in matters of daily operations, they are under the control of the president herself. And now they are allowed to provide protection to those of us who are thinking of running for presidency in next year's general elections because of the same amendments. So remember, what we are seeing today has a background. The background is the continuity between Samia and Magufuli and Samia, and the recent changes in the law which have allowed the intelligence and security apparatus to do that which they were prohibited by law to do in years past. So to conclude, to answer your question shortly, we missed the opportunity to press much harder for democratic reforms when President Samia took over in March of 2021. Instead of lessening the pressure, instead of easing the pressure, which we did, we should have increased the pressure for her to move the country away from the dark shadow that was her predecessor's administration. We didn't do that. We gave her the benefit of the doubt that she did not deserve. And yes, this is what we are getting as a result. But thank you very much. I think I would say very briefly that we are going to do the only thing that we can do, and that is mobilize public opinion in Tanzania and internationally to pressure for reform. We are going to go everywhere. We are going to do everything that is in our power to do to make sure that the people of Tanzania do not accept our country being dragged back into the dark abyss where we were during the Magufuli years. So we'll do that which our laws and our constitution allow, and that is mass mobilization, mass organization, mass resistance. We cannot do anything else. We don't have the arms to defend ourselves with. We are going to also need a lot of international support. In previous years, international support has been very important in democratic struggles, not only in Tanzania, but also elsewhere on the continent and around the world. We are going to ask our friends internationally not to give the government of Tanzania succor, not to give the government of Tanzania any help diplomatically, politically, economically, until it does the right thing. And the right thing at this moment in time is to undertake constitutional and institutional reform that will usher in a democratic Tanzania. Mass mobilization, democratic struggles, international solidarity. Those are the three things that I think we are going to be endeavoring to achieve in the next in the months and years ahead. Thank you very much for the very good questions. Regarding regional and international solidarity, I think where we are at this point in time, one can say with some certainty that there is a modicum of international solidarity, regional solidarity, whenever things like what we're talking about here happen. When Mzee Ali Kibao was abducted and eventually murdered, there was an immediate international and regional and national outcry. And it came about because we've been able to establish connections within the country, within the region, as well as internationally. Diplomatic condemnation was swift in coming. We managed to reach the international press. You'll have seen that even major publications like the New York Times and others were able to carry the story, and this was possible because we have been able in these years of difficult situation in our country, we've been able to build networks of solidarity within the continent and outside the continent as well. So to be brief, there already are existing international and regional platforms. They may need improvement, they may need to be expanded, but to say that we are starting from scratch will not be correct. There already is a lot going on within the country, within the region, and internationally. I also wanted to say a word about the issues related to sanctions. It is always the case that whenever the call for sanction is made, the excuse is always that the sanctions will hurt the people they are meant to help. They will hurt the poor more. This is the poor argument that was used by apartheid South Africa, for those of us who are old enough to know the excuses made of the apartheid regime in the 70s and the 80s. It has been made by every other dictator you can think of, that if you sanction their regimes, then you will hurt the poor. I think the most important question for countries that give development assistance to our countries is for them to ask themselves and for their people to ask of their governments, how much are they prepared to continue funding these obnoxious dictatorships which are destroying the lives and freedoms of their own people? How can you continue supporting a government financially that you know is oppressing, is abducting, killing its own citizens? I think these excuses that the sanctions will hurt the people they are meant to help more than the government is a very poor excuse indeed. Our friends should take a position that they will not have their money being used to subsidize repression. I have not come across a single police officer who would testify truthfully in a court of law. I have never seen police investigators or police witnesses who will not try to embellish the story even when it is damaging to their case. In fact, the level of criminalization within the police force, within our security agencies, is such that it's not difficult to get somebody locked up or even killed by the security agencies simply by giving them money. The level of criminality is simply shocking. And you're right, the gentleman who asked the question, the amount of drug trafficking that goes through our borders is astonishing. The level of human trafficking of immigrants from Ethiopia, from Eritrea, from the Horn of Africa generally, who cross our borders on their way south, it can only be possible by very high level involvement of the law enforcement and other government agencies. And this is one area that needs a very thoroughgoing investigation in order to document the depth of it. What else? I think the question about the silence of international community is important, but I think we should be hesitant to point accusing fingers to the international community when we ourselves have not done what we are supposed to do properly, when we have not discharged our responsibilities as citizens. We should ask for international solidarity to help our efforts. We should not be asking the international community to do the dirty job for us. It is our responsibility to get rid of these rotten leaders, rotten rulers who call themselves our leaders. It is our primary responsibility. It is not the responsibility of the Americans. It is not the responsibility of the EU or the Britons or whoever. It is our primary responsibility. And we can only ask for international support if and when we have done our duty by our own country. In this most recent wave of repression that is subject of our discussion today, I think one can say with some justification in saying that the international community has been swift in its condemnation of the murders of Ali Kibao, the abductions and disappearances of the Chadema leaders who are still missing. The diplomatic representatives of our international friends have not stood by. They have spoken out. They have raised their alarm with their governments, hopefully, but certainly they have made themselves heard publicly, and that is, I think, to be welcomed. But we should never forget that the primary responsibility is ours. We should not ask for solidarity from others before we have done our responsibility, so to speak.